design school could have had their own reality show. It was crazy. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Shay. If you're new, welcome. Today I'm going to be doing a Q&A for all of you, and I reached out on Instagram a couple weeks ago asking if you guys had any questions for me, and a lot of them were actually to do with what I do for a job, which is interior design, and I'm super excited to share my thoughts and some of my answers to your guys' questions. So let's get started. My first question is, why did you decide to make the move from Calgary to Vancouver? And then the second part of the question is, where do you work and what is your job there? So a little background history on me. I moved to Calgary, Alberta for interior design because they had a really good, and still do have a very good, interior design program there. If you want to study interior design, you always want to make sure that you are going to a CETA accredited program, because that will get you recognized if you want to move forward and you want to go into architecture. Anything like that, you really want to do your research and make sure that you're going to a good program. I'm not initially from Alberta, so my plan was never to stay there after I graduated. My goal was always to move back to BC when I was done, and it just so happened that I stayed an extra year there working Aritzia. Okay, I have to backpedal. So this all makes sense for everybody. Or during my education, in the curriculum, we had to do a co-op, or we had to do 2 co-op internships somewhere in the design field. It just so happened that the first internship that I did was in Vancouver, and so through that I made a lot of connections here while I was still a student. And so once I was looking to come back, I sort of sent out the feelers, like everybody does after they've just received their piece of paper that say they graduated. They're like, okay, time to get a job. And so you send out the feelers, and you kind of see who reaches back and who helps you out. And a few people that I had met when I was here going to school, we'd kept in touch, and they were like, oh, why don't you work for us? Come and have an interview and we'll just see what happens from that. And so I was lucky enough that I made really good connections while I was here. Also, can't stress enough the importance of being well connected and always putting yourself out there. Design events and the design industry is so unique because we always have these sort of mixers or design events where everybody from the industry goes, and it is so important. I'm the flakiest person in the world, and I'd be the first person to say no to going to these events, but they are so important in meeting people and networking and getting your name out there, and even just seeing who else is out there employer-wise, because you never know who's gonna reach back out to you once you've graduated or once you're looking for a job. So super important. So that is how I ended up here. And what am I doing here? Is that what the second question was? I work for an architecture and interior design firm here. I'm not going to say the name. Question number 3. What exactly did you study and where, and what are your tips? So I think I already covered what did I study and where. So maybe you also have tips on portfolio. Okay, tips for design school. I already touched on making sure that you go to all of the events and you get your name out there, and you hopefully get your work out there as well. It is encouraged, or it was encouraged, and I think this is pretty similar through all design and architecture schools. They work the student so hard. By the end of design school, all of us had acquired bags down to here. Like, our faces were just so discolored. Like, my hair honestly started falling out. Like, I'd be in the shower scrubbing my hair, and it would just be like, I'm not kidding you guys, like clumps of my hair were coming out because I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping, we weren't even really seeing sunlight. Like, it was so crazy. Like, we're not saving lives. Like, we are not, bottom line is, like, we are not saving lives. And if I had any tips for current design students or people going into design, you don't have to do that. Like, really try and manage your time well. but you don't have to torture yourself. You really, really don't have to torture yourself. Even, oh my god, even the people with the best time management skills were still struggling, and so I think that just speaks to the program. I think this goes for any students. Your health, your mental health, your physical health, all of that comes first before staying up for like 48 hours or more straight. Also, my second tip for design school would definitely be, and I've heard different stories from the people that I work with that also went to design school, but they didn't go the same place that I went to. Try your best to stay away from drama, to avoid negativity, because that doesn't breed a very healthy environment. Design school could have had their own reality show. It was crazy. Just trying not to get caught up in drama or those like cliques. I know if people are watching, like, I was definitely part of the clique, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But yeah, just try and be nice to everybody, because at the end of the day, those people are also going to be your peers out in the industry when all of you are graduated. Anyways, try and stay out of your drama, be nice to everybody, and everything will work out. And that is my tip for surviving design school. I'm not sure if that like answered the question, because I feel like I just went on like every tangent ever. Tips on portfolio. For those of you, if you aren't in interior design or you don't have any idea what I'm talking about when I say portfolio, 1 second. Okay, so when we talk about portfolio, it is this. This is my portfolio. I can't remember what size it is. I got this made Etsy. I usually don't really like Etsy. I got this done online by somebody who does like engraved acrylic portfolios. So this is one portfolio, and I think that the other kind of portfolio that people are asking about is the portfolio that is required when you want to get into the program. So for my program, it was required that we hand drew. It was how accurately you could draw to scale. So in ours, I think there was like a Roman column, there was a balloon. Oh my god, that Roman column, I swear, because there were those little horses going around the column with like soldiers, and the detail, like, oh my god, my portfolio, just for that one piece alone, I think that was like 30 hours. It was insane. For design school, it is really, really crucial that you can draw. You do learn like hand drafting. They have those big stand-up boards where they have the ruler that slides up and down, and they're always like drawing. So that is how you learn how to draw floor plans, and you learn how to draw all of your elevations. So that was one part of my portfolio. The second part was to come up with an abstract piece on what is design to you, which is kind of, I don't, like, looking back, I don't love that idea. Your portfolio is basically trying to show how much you already understand about art and design and concepts, and if you already sort of get what they're trying to ask you to do. If they say abstract, you do not take images of houses. You don't take images of somebody drafting. You don't do that, because that is not abstract. If you have time, I would definitely recommend taking a couple visual arts classes first. Any sort of sketching, any perspective classes, all of those will help you so much in your portfolio making process. Now, if you are already nearing the end of your program and this is the portfolio that you are talking about, this is basically a collection of all of your work, the standout pieces of your work that you've done for the last 4 years. Like, this is mine. Don't steal my ideas. No, just kidding, you can go ahead. I like to show that I was a more well-rounded student and I liked all aspects of design, so I did my like cute little introduction, and hand lettering is something that I really like, so I wrote and scanned it in, and it was like hello, and they're like, oh, that's no good, so like hello, and then I do a little blurb about myself. I feel like this is story time, you know, when you're like in kindergarten and people like write to you. We got a little bit crafty and had to make stair models, and these were just a little bit of my sketchbooks, so some of my conceptual ideas to begin with. This is what you learn. You finally learn like computer drafting. Then you do like sections, and all of these were drawn by hand because that I think was only in second year. That's a hand sketch, and then that's the hand sketch gone into Photoshop. So going into actually working now, Photoshop is so important. Another question that was asked was, what did you love or hate the most about design school, and have you ever thought about going into architecture? I think I covered what I didn't like about design school by saying just the clickiness and how basically it could have been a reality show. We had a lot of characters in my program, and I think that was like very unique to that year. But what I liked the most was being surrounded by people that were all super competitive, but in a really good way. Like just being around such incredibly talented people was so good and like so eye-opening. Like I'd be like, yeah, this is like a 9 out of 10, like very close to my best work. And then somebody would put something on the wall and I'd be like, mine is a 3. But you learn so much from seeing other people's, and people are so inspiring. Anyways, I love seeing the progress. I love being surrounded by people that want to do what you want to do, and you get a healthy push off of each other. Have you ever thought about going into architecture? I have considered going into architecture. Do I want to go into architecture? No. No, I do not, because the difference between architecture and interior design to me isn't great enough for me to want to go back to school to pursue what essentially is a very, very similar field. I wouldn't move on to architecture. There's a lot of people that do go from interior design to architecture. It's kind of that's like their stepping stone. There's just a lot that I want to do that is not architecture. Okay, I've been trying to like ignore this question because I think it's so hard and I don't really know if I have a good answer for it. It is, how do you continue to find inspiration when you're feeling unmotivated? I think as anybody that's creative, anybody that's creating something has felt that awful like presence of just being unmotivated, not having any ideas, steeping, and you're just like stagnant, and that is the worst feeling. Like that, I would rather punched in the face. No. I'd rather like stub my toe. I'd rather get a paper cut. No. I'd rather stub my toe every day than feel like I have no ideas, or that none of my ideas are good enough, or that I just don't have anything left in here to like put out into the world. I think you just try and like power through. It's a practice. I think as much as people can say that being creative is, oh, it's just always there, it's just always, and like for the most part it is, but when it's not, it is definitely a practice and it's a skill. And so even for me with drawing, like it's an exercise. You just have to sit down, have the discipline to do it, and maybe it's not necessarily motivation, but it's persistence and it's work, and you just sit your butt down and you just do it because you have to, and the motivation, the inspiration, it will come back. I think I'm just gonna leave it at that. That is my little ramble on interior design and my experience and what I do. Thanks for reaching out to me. For those of you who are in school or are going into school, I am always open to more questions, so you can always contact me via Instagram at goodgirlshay. And for those of you who just learned a little bit more about interior design, I am so thankful because I think it's so misunderstood sometimes what we do. Thanks for listening to me ramble for so long. If you want more of this, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you back in my next video. Bye everybody.